Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth, and we've got a great show lined up this evening. And we lead it off with South Florida Tribune correspondent Damon Knight. And Damon, what are you going to be writing for the upcoming edition of the Tribune?
So I'm writing about Steph Curry. If you haven't heard, he's returning to the court on March 1st. The Warriors are 12 and 46 without him. Curry averages 19.8 points a game, 50% from the field, and 40% from the arc. He broke his second metacarpal in his left hand in a game against the Phoenix Suns. He collided with center Aaron Baines. He's only played in 4 games this season, and he's coming back with an odd predicament where he's so used to dominating in the league. He's working with a team that's, like I said, only won 12 games. And Golden State's plus with him is 14.8 in 672 minutes with Curry. That's a huge gain, getting him back.
Okay. Well, I mean, Steph has been out all year. The Warriors certainly have definitely played to the level of their talent. I know they lost Durant during the offseason.
Yes, yep.
And they continue. Andre Iguodala was sent out of there, so a lot of their championship pieces have gone on.
Yes.
I guess when you talk about the Warriors in general, Damon, you have a bad year. Steve Kerr's gutting it out. He knew he didn't have a whole lot. Draymond Green is certainly not a franchise player or the impact player that one would think. But when you look at Steph Curry's impact, even with the current team that he has, how many more wins do you think the Warriors will get? And I don't think that'll certainly get in their way of being able to land a top 5 pick.
Oh no, they're supposed to get Wiseman out of Memphis. He hasn't played a game this year because of NCAA violations, but that's supposedly who they're going to get with the first overall pick. He's a center, so you're looking at Draymond Green's position. They could delegate him around the starting 5. I'm sure they'll find a place for him, but I don't think it'll be a problem. As far as games that they're going to win, it's hard to say. Curry's still getting back into form. With his hand, he says it's abnormal right now for him to shoot. They're not going to rush him back if he's not ready. But if I had to guess, I'd say like 8 more games if they're lucky.
Okay. What else do you want to what else do you want to say about Steph Curry, so that our readers have something to look forward to when you go ahead and get your story online?
I just think that the overall excitement that you're reading something that is of news to you and that you enjoy. Like, a lot of people love Steph Curry, and when he's back in the league, you're gonna see views go up more. In my opinion, you're going to see more people tuning into Golden State Warrior games. They're not going to just be like, oh, I don't want to watch a losing team, but Steph Curry's playing. He's playing the Pistons in March, so I'm probably going to want to go out there and see that game. Maybe get some tickets. I can't wait. But yeah, it's just you're going to get some information about him coming back, and I think it's going to be exciting. So
Anything else that you want to add about Curry?
Yes, he's just going to help this team out a lot. He's going to help deliver the ball into areas where normally other point guards that are on the team can't. He's going to shoot the ball well, hopefully. He's just going to open up a lot more spacing for him and a lot more potential. So, he's going to add a lot to this team.
Okay, well, all right. Since you spoke about the Detroit Pistons, they moved on from Andre Drummond.
Yes.
I believe was it Markieff Morris?
Markieff Morris, Reggie Jackson.
Right, they were both bought out. So let's talk about the Pistons for the rest of the year. How many wins do they have left in them?
I have no clue. I mean, they're so inconsistent. It makes me sick. I'd say 5. Not like Golden State because they don't have a player like Curry, but I'd say 5, half of what Golden State's going to get from Curry. So
Yeah, I mean, Andre Drummond. What's amazing is he goes from Detroit to Cleveland, which is a worse situation. The Cavaliers let John Beeline get away. I don't know whether he was a good fit in the NBA anyways.
Yes.
But Blake Griffin is still there. I don't think he's playing the rest of the year. What kind of contribution do you think that Blake Griffin has with 2 years left to go and what I consider a very untradeable contract?
He's had spurts during his time where he's been somewhat healthy or healthy enough to compete at a high level. I've seen him drop 50 points against Philly. That was impressive. A year back, he was averaging at least 20-some-odd points a game. So I say, next year, he's had the leg injury. Let's see how long he can stay healthy. And I think that he can give us really, some really good production. And then maybe we're in the same scenario again where we can trade him to a team that is competing for a championship and get some pieces back for him. I'd rather be in a playoff position ourselves where we can utilize his talent, but that's highly unlikely in my opinion because I don't think we have the assets around us to do that. So it's up in the air.
One of the few pleasant surprises on the Pistons roster is Derrick Rose.
Yes.
So tell me what the attitude is about Derrick Rose.
He's revitalized his career here in a way. He was Chicago. He's the MVP, in 2011. And, he was pretty much the face of their franchise. And then, of course, he has the leg injuries. And then ever since, he's been traded. He's been a journeyman. He's found his way here. And he's revitalized his career, like I said. And, he wants to win. He wants to stay here. But it's really up to how the team does and where we need to go forward to make progress to where we want to be. And so if that's trading him, that's what we're going to do. If not, then we're going to keep him. So, I'm sure a team that would want his talents could use him in the playoffs. So,
I know management has talked about him being a very calming influence with a lot of the younger guys. So
yeah.
When you think about it, he does have a 2-year contract. Year one will be out of the way. What are you hearing from management and Dwayne Casey about what Derrick Rose has been able to do beyond what he's done on the court?
Beyond what he's done on the court, just mentoring young players coming in the league that are coming through the Pistons and veteran experience. Just taking people under his wing and just guiding them on the court. And he's give back to community. He's huge into community and especially Chicago. He's a good role model for young players, not just with the Pistons, to kind of be like, I want to be like that. I want to be talented, but be a good person off the court. So he's a good ambassador of the game.
Are there any bright spots besides Derrick Rose that you see on that roster?
Luke Kennard, I think he's a little bit underrated or overlooked in my opinion. He does provide shooting value, even though that he is injured right now. He's still a bright spot on our team. And then you look at Christian Wood. I really love Christian Wood. I would like to sign him to an extension. I think he's deserving. And, I think we can build around him. He looks like that player that you could build a good team around, and maybe he's a piece going forward into the playoffs.
Okay, well, since you're in Motown, I might as well go ahead and ask you your thoughts about the Red Wings' recent trades. I know that Steve Yzerman preaches patience, and everybody's had to deal with it. How do you size up the trades of Mike Green and Andres Athanasiou to Edmonton and Ken Holland?
Yeah, so we traded Green first to the Oilers, like you just said, for Kyle Brodziak. He is expected to retire in September, and although we retained half his contract, and we took the Oilers' contract aspirations towards Brodziak off their hands. We also got a conditional pick for that trade for either 2020 or 2021, depending on whether Green and the Oilers make the Western Conference Finals. Hopefully that happens. It's kind of like a Vegas situation where we traded, the name is escaping me right now, Tatar, where we traded Tatar to Vegas.
Right.
and we ended up with Joe Bellino. So we don't know what that holds. And as far as like Andreas Athanasiou, we got 2 second-rounders for him. So basically, we're cropping up on prospects and draft picks, trying to find young talent and to build for the future and to potentially win a Stanley Cup. That's every team's goal. And so I like the trades. You know, Green is a very good defenseman. Athanasiou's problem is that he doesn't have enough playmakers around him for him to develop his game. So he's going to get his chance in Edmonton with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So they'll be fine.
Well, as I understand it, Athanasiou, I think, got a point or a goal yesterday. So I didn't waste any time. And you're right, he has more talent around him in Edmonton. Yes. I know he's going to cost the Oilers a little bit of money if they want to retain him, however, because I know he's due, I think, a restricted free agent coming up or unrestricted within a couple of years. So if the Oilers are going to do anything with Andres, they have to lock him up, and they need to do it right away before he outprices himself for that market. With that said, I know that unfortunately Jimmy Howard is having a very tough season. I think he still has only won 2 games to date, and it really is completely unfortunate. But how do you think Jimmy's taking this season as a whole?
As a learning experience, or it's just how it is. He's on a young team. It's not surprising that they're struggling. And you just got to take it as it is and not take it personal. You know, like, you're still a very good goaltender, even though, given the fact that you're on a bad team. He could leave elsewhere if he wanted to. Henrik Lundqvist is talking to the Rangers about his future with the team. Howard is a New York native, so it only makes sense if he ended up there. I don't want to see him go. If he's our best option as far as free agency is concerned, I'd re-sign him, same with Bernier. But if we can get a young prospect in the draft that's a really good, promising goalie, I'd grab him too. So you can't have enough goalies, you know what I mean? So, you know, you look at Bennington of the St. Louis Blues. He was a third stringer, and they were in last place, and they got all the way to him, and they ended up winning the Stanley Cup. So you can never have enough goalies.
Yeah, so. I read today that while Steve Yzerman could make a coaching change, my gut feeling is he does stand pat with Jeff Blashill, knowing that Jeff has had a thankless job all year trying to get these guys to play, and the talent level, let's face it, is just horrible at the moment.
Yeah, oh yes. Yeah, you know, I think it's a great move to keep a coach on that's coaching a young team. You don't want an experienced guy who's got winning aspirations, and any team that is there could take him and he'll leave. And so with Blashill, it's just about getting him there, and then once that time comes, then you can get a coach in there that knows how to win with the team that he's got,
right,
and get it done. So I like the move.
Okay, and let's go back to Steph Curry since we started the program off of it. Do they play the Pistons over at Little Caesars Arena?
Yes, they do. I believe in Golden State and in Detroit.
Also, they got a couple of games against the Warriors.
Yes.
Be pretty interesting to see that. Well, I got news for you. Draymond Green will definitely have a good rooting section with Little Caesars Arena, and there'll be plenty of good seats available for sure.
I'm contemplating. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay.
I was contemplating whether or not I should wear my Steph Curry jersey. I love him with a passion. So, you know, in Detroit, but we'll see.
Well, any other final observations about what's going on in Detroit? Matt Stafford, why don't we have a minute or so to go? How is he progressing?
He's progressing really well. You know, he had the back injury, but he's recovering. You know, they had the rumors about him being possibly traded to the Los Angeles Chargers. You know, with his wife's Instagram post, people are saying it's fake or that was just to throw out there just to cause controversy, not necessarily it's a true fact. I also heard we might take Tua for the 3rd overall pick.
Right.
I don't necessarily like that idea. If you're going to trade Stafford, if that is the plan, that's a bad option. You know, so it's going to be interesting to see who we get, or if somebody jumps ahead of us and takes somebody at 2 with Washington there. It could shake up the entire draft, and it can totally change our outlook on the whole thing in general. So,
Okay, 30 seconds ago. How can people find Damon Knight?
You can find me on Twitter at Damon, capital D, Knight with a K, Knight, capital K, N19930409. You can also find me on Facebook as well, and on the SouthFloridaTribune.com.
Yeah, and I know you like to write at least once a week. We enjoy your material. The thing I like about you a lot is the fact that you do come up with timely stuff. So, meanwhile, Damon, thanks for being on the program, and we'll talk to you another time. All right, thank you.
I appreciate it.
You
yep.
bet.
Bye.
All right, our next guest is Les Wolf, and I know Les, you certainly are a memorabilia collector. Before we have you talk about boxing, go ahead and promote your brand.
Hi, my name is Les Wolf, Soul Sports. My website is www.leswolf, WOLFF, sports, SPORTS, LLC.com. You can always call me at 516-933-7787, or you can email me at lwolff1823@AOL.com. So if there's any memorabilia you're looking to sell, buy, or looking for any questions, just give me a holler, and I'm always happy to help you.
All right, do you have a Twitter account?
Pardon me?
You have a Twitter account?
Yes, I do. I got to look that up to tell you. I believe it is Les Wolf Sports, and my LinkedIn is Les Wolf Sports also .com. My email I've already given you,
Right.
and I'm also on Instagram, and my Instagram account is let's see, Les Wolf.
All right. You got. All right, you got it. So, all right, let's talk about the recent fight that occurred over the weekend, Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder. Tell me what boxing memorabilia is worth before I have you give me a blow-by-blow on this.
Boxing memorabilia worth as far as Wilders and Furies, or in general boxing memorabilia?
Okay, well, we got about 10 minutes, so I'll let you go ahead and talk about your observations on that fight.
Whenever you are we on the air now? We're good?
Yes, we are.
Okay. As far as the fight, I was very disappointed. I thought for sure Wilder was going to win based upon the last fight, even though I did feel that Fury was winning up until the knockdown in the first fight. I felt that it was a long count. I felt that Fury was winning until the knockdown. In the second fight, it was a totally different fight. I think one thing that hasn't been mentioned much is the illegal punches that Fury was hitting Deontay behind the head, and I think that's what caused that ear punch that affected Deontay's equilibrium, and it caused a cut ear that swayed the fight more towards Fury. But I got to tell you, Fury's strategy was to take the fight to Deontay instead of waiting for Deontay to come at him. And his new cornerman, Sugar Hill, had the right idea, because most fighters just kind of lay back and try to get to Deontay, and Deontay just usually waits to come in with his one punch that he knocks you out with, that he almost knocked him out in the first fight, but not in this fight. Fury's strategy was flawless. I mean, knocked him down in the second round. He hurt him, but like I said before, I think a lot of his punches were behind the head, and that's where he got penalized a couple of points because of that. And Deontay wasn't quite the same. He was looking for that one-punch knockout, and he wasn't able to get it. I personally think if Deontay would have tried more uppercuts, he might have won that fight, because of Fury's style rushing in on him. If he would have set him up instead of going for the jab, went for the straight uppercut, I think he would have knocked him out. But we'll find out in the next fight. Deontay hasn't officially announced it, but he will be announcing it soon. That he has 30 days to announce if they're gonna have the trilogy, and I think they definitely will have the trilogy.
Yeah, as I heard, I believe he has already announced that he plans to fight him for a third time. He wasted no time with that decision. Now, whether how official it will be, whatever it is, but all indications are that the third fight will definitely occur. I think there's talk about it happening around July, and if it doesn't happen in July in Vegas, I have a feeling it could be in September. If for no other reason, it would be in the new football stadium where the Raiders and the UNLV Rebels will be playing. So,
I personally think they should that Deontay, based upon having his jaw, pretty badly swollen and his ear cut and affected his equilibrium. I also think that Mark Breland made the right choice to throw in the towel to save his fighter there.
yeah, I agree with you there.
I also feel that they should wait longer than so July would be 5 months from now. I think they should wait longer than that because Deontay was not looking good at the end of that fight.
Well, my gut feeling is that they're going to do it in September, and that would probably fall into what you're talking about. September, I think, is the right time. Bob Arum's a co-promoter on that, and he's indicated
But
that
if I were working in Deontay's corner, I would try to delay it as long as possible. Let him get over the fact that he was knocked out for the first time because they usually say you should wait at least a year, 6 months to a year, to get your faculties back and to be in good shape. So that's what if I was in Deontay's corner or if I was Deontay's management, that's what I would do on this particular instance because you want to always protect your fighter, and that's what Mark Breland did. Got a lot of flack for throwing in a towel because Deontay's a warrior. He didn't want to get. He didn't want to. He still wanted to go out. He wanted to go out fighting, but he's got a family. He's got a life to live after boxing is over, and I really respect Mark Breland for throwing in the towel and taking care, looking after his fighter. Breland was in a similar situation himself, and they threw in the towel, and that hopefully that helped Breland to do what he's doing now. Breland, if you recall, was one of the top fighters in his weight category a while ago.
Yeah, well, one other thing here. We have a few more minutes to go. I know that Wilder had a 40-pound costume. To me, I don't get.
40-pound costume. I mean, come on. He knew what it was going in. That it was a heavy costume. Why on earth would they make a costume like that? I understand his legs were a little weary. That's what he's saying. I think that's it's an excuse, but it's not really an excuse if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
A professional fighter, a professional athlete. I mean, how many pounds does a football uniform weigh with the shoulder pads and the helmet and everything else? So a hockey player, baseball player is just the helmet is heavy and the bat's 36 to 38 ounces. Basketball, there is no weight. I mean, okay, he had a heavy weight, but he knew that before he started the fight that he had to walk around with that. Why did he okay to go in with that?
Well, to me, that goes beyond my wildest of imaginations. I've seen a lot of things over the years, but I hate to use the cliche that takes the cake. But you know what, Les? It does take the cake.
No, I mean it's 45 pounds, which is come on. I mean that's ridiculous. I mean it's one thing to make a prop and make a statement, but 45 pounds is a little bit too heavy in my opinion. But he knew he knew that he weighed that much. He had the he had the right to say I don't want to wear that going in there. So I mean that's I can't blame anybody but him for not speaking up and saying I don't want to wear that.
Well, I mean, what it looked like to me. Let's talk about a little fictional for a moment. You had Apollo Creed wearing his get-up, and then you had Drago walking around with just basically his regular outfit without glamorizing it. And then what did he have from an ironic standpoint? The foreign guy beat the American.
But if you recall in that fight, the fictional fight of Carl Weathers when he played Apollo Creed, that he's wearing an Uncle Sam hat.
Yeah, I remember it.
Boob and the shorts. So, I mean, what did that weigh? That weighed, ounces compared to 45 pounds. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but there's one thing that I can tell you about both acts, even though I won't want to get on Uncle Sam's bad side. They both look like clowns going into the ring. I don't care if one was a 5-pound clown versus a 45-pound clown. The reality is just show up in your shorts and take care of business in the ring. Nobody cares about all the old fancy business, or at least I don't care. Go ahead.
Well, Fury came in as the king, with his throne. I mean, that was kind of crazy also. But it's a showman's sport, and they're there to hype up the crowd and the pay-per-view viewers. I personally, go back to the Ali days and Frazier days where you wear a robe, you wear a hood, you take it off, and you go in there. That's to me. Maybe I'm just too old school with that. I like the old school style.
What are you talking about? You being too old school? What do you think I am? Young school? Really? I'm with you.
You're young.
I remember. Hey, listen, I totally agree with you.
I mean, I maybe I'm a traditionalist. Maybe I am what I am. But I like when they wear. If you wear a fancy robe, that's fine.
Yeah.
You're not really remembered by the robe. You remember what you do in the ring.
No question about it. No question about it.
And all these fighters, the hypes and everything. I think they got to go back to basics and just wear something simple and basic.
I mean, the only.
If you're going to make money off the robe to sell endorsements to any kind of company, fine. But you got to make. They were making $5 million as that purse plus $25 million each, plus a percentage of the pay-per-view. I mean, I would guess they probably cleared $40 to $50 million each from that fight.
Well, they probably did. That's why I think they'll sell the trilogy real well. I mean, you've got a hot thing going. And I will close on this note, Les. It's always good for boxing when the heavyweights are in the spotlight, because you and I both know about the history of the heavyweights, dating back to Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano. The beat goes on. For boxing to be relevant, Les, you need to have the heavyweight division in the spotlight. Period.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. I mean, I think after this fight is, after the trilogy's over, I hope that Fury, if Fury wins or if Deontay wins, whoever wins, I hope that Fury doesn't retire if he should win. I hope either one of them fights Joshua and proves that Joshua is just a paper champion. I don't believe Joshua's got much skill at all.
Well, that's why a lot of people want this fight to happen first, and then Joshua will just have to wait his turn. Doesn't matter. That fight with Joshua, whoever it's with, will take place. But we need to see the trilogy. So give me your what type of, on the memorabilia market, tell me what do you think the memorabilia for this fight would be worth?
Well, right now, Fury stuff is more in demand now because he's the undefeated heavyweight champion. Deontay's stuff has gone down. Fury is hot now, but when Deontay wins the title back, then his stuff will appreciate and go up. I think Joshua is still just sitting in he's in the backfield waiting to get in on the big fight, but I think he's going to have to wait till after the third fight and hope that one of them will fight him. But Fury said has 3 fights and then he's done. So I don't know if Joshua is part of his plan to fight him.
Well, that's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of one, as far as I'm concerned. But I'll be curious to see what the third fight is. I was hoping that there would be a trilogy, and boxing to me is better when you have trilogies. And if you want
Absolutely.
And if you want an example,
Joshua had the opportunity to fight Deontay a long time ago, and Eddie Hearn only wanted a certain kind of split that was absolutely ridiculous for Deontay to accept.
right?
So because of his greed, that never happened. That and probably because he felt that he didn't think Joshua could beat Deontay.
Well,
TBD. Whatever they want about Deontay, the fact that he lost the fight and everything. But the one thing is Deontay never backed down from anybody to fight.
I agree.
Deontay fought everybody. Everybody that he fought once that it was a close fight, he knocked them out in the second fight.
Right.
There aren't too many fighters that don't he fought Luis Ortiz, and Ortiz is a tough fighter. He fought him a second time. He fought Stavern, who he won the title from, beat him the second time he knocked him out. So you don't see many fighters do that in this day and age. And Joshua beat Ruiz Ruiz because Ruiz didn't train right. Ruiz gained so much weight. Let me see him fight Ruiz again with Ruiz in shape. Let's see what happens there before we even try to fight Deontay.
Okay, we'll wrap it up on this note, and we have about a hard 45 seconds before our next guest comes on. I usually know that in the second fight, most fighters make adjustments, and then you see what happens. We've seen that drill all too many times. So
absolutely, the problem is I didn't really see Deontay make much adjustments. I think he was just looking for that one punch again.
And he paid for it. So meanwhile, Les, pleasure having you on the Sports Exchange, and we look forward to your next appearance. Thank you, Les.
Thank you, and have a good evening. And thank you, sports fans. Have a great evening.
You bet. You take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
So tonight we've had a little bit of a deviation here. We've had war boxing, a continuation from what we had on was it Tuesday night when we brought in Mike Santos, and you know, Les Wolf is like myself. We're old school boxing people is what we are. And when you have boxing, I think whether you like the sport or not, it's just a sport with an enormous tradition. It really is.
No, I understand. I mean, it just isn't my sport, and I get it. Other people like it. It's very popular. You know, just like UFC is very popular. Again, not my sport, not my thing. But I don't take anything away from the people that do it.
Right.
I mean, everybody has their own love, their own passion. They need to follow it. If that's what their passion is, more power to them.
Right. Well, again, it's a sport with a rich tradition. I've been thankful that I've had a chance to meet a lot of the best boxers of all time. Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, James Toney, just to name a few.
Mm-hmm.
And Sugar Ray Leonard was great. When I talked to him, Muhammad Ali is simply the best. James Toney, I always take pride in having a fist right next to my jaw. I realize I have an incredible image with my jaw being overworked, and other people go out there and like to take a shot at it, so I welcome all comers.
I understand. I'm not so sure that I have a picture of you with my hand at your jaw.
Well, sure, we can find a photographer to take that.
Yeah, we should have done it on our wedding day. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, we should have. I loved it when Rudy Reyes and I took our photos of us boxing, and Peter Ween on the Sports Exchange on the WEI network, and I had a nice photo of ourselves doing it. And and what's so interesting about Peter is the old guy and the not so young guy.
You weren't the old guy in that one.
No, that's true. One of the few moments when I'm really not, that's for sure. So, but all in all, I think we have a lot of good guests coming up over the next week. And why don't you go ahead and I'll let everybody know that we're going to be going to Arizona, I believe, a week from this Saturday, and looking forward to spending some time out.
We are, but I invite everybody else to check us out on www.southfloridatribune.com. We have all kinds of content. We have everything from racing and Daytona 500, Sebring, 12 hours of Sebring.
And we also have Mel Farr, former Los Angeles Ram running back, on the line. Mel, thanks for being on the Sports Exchange. Glad to have you.
Hey, no problem. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing real well. You're on with myself and Candy tonight.
Hi, Mel.
Hey, Candy, how you doing?
Good, and you?
I can't complain.
How's the weather up there?
It's not bad.
Okay.
I think it was about 50s today. Could be worse. We could be in Detroit where it's a snowstorm.
There we go.
Yeah, well, so how's the Big Chicken doing out in Atlanta? I really enjoyed that place.
I don't frequent it as much as I used to. When I used to work right across the street or right behind it, I used to frequent it quite a bit, but trying to stay away from the fast food and the fried food right now. So I haven't been there since we were there.
No, it's okay. It's still, the chicken's pretty good to look at from the road, even if you're not going out there and having it.
Oh, yeah. The Big Chicken's doing just fine.
Yeah, it looked awfully good. The only one that couldn't see the Big Chicken would be Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder, but I found it, even though I didn't know where I was going.
Yeah, I think they could even find it.
It probably could. So, well, let's talk a little bit of NFL. And the NFL Scouting Combine is going on this week. Have you paid much attention to it?
No, think right now, I don't think they've started the drills yet. The actual on-field stuff yet, I don't think they've started that. I paid a little bit of attention as far as what they said about Joe Burrow. They're trying to see what guys might break the combine record in the 40-yard dash. I noticed that they added some new drills. I didn't get a chance to look at all the drills, but I think there was like 15 new drills that they added to the combine. But other than that, no, not too much. I haven't paid too much attention to it.
No problem. I'm going to list a bunch of players, and you tell me whether you think these guys should have pretty decent careers. I know later on tonight I'll have another guest on here talking about bust, but for the sake of, the class of 2020, let's talk about Joe Burrow. Do you think he's a good fit in Cincinnati, and do you think that he'll be able to turn that franchise around?
I think it's unfortunate in the respect that, one of the better players has to go to one of the worst franchises. I think that Joe Burrow is a good player, but you obviously got to have a supporting cast. And in football, you need more than one person. But if you have a competent quarterback, at least you have an opportunity to win. You have the chance to win. If you don't have somebody at that position, you have no chance of winning. So I believe he's a winner. I like what he did at LSU. He improved leaps and bounds from his junior campaign to what he did his senior campaign. I think the guy has some intangibles that are things that won't be measured, that you can't measure at the combine. I think he comes from the right stuff, and I think he'll be a good quarterback. His hand size is a little small or whatever, but I guess it all matters because you take those measurements. But at the end of the day, what can he do once he gets out there in that field? How's he processing the information? How's he processing what he sees? I think that's more important than anything. So I believe what my eyes tell me on the tape. When I saw him do his senior campaign, and I'm a big guy as far as quarterback is concerned. I don't like the one-hit wonders. I don't like the guys that just, did it for 1 year. I really like to look at the guys that have played the position for 2 or 3 years. And, you got 2 years of tape to look at Joe Burrow. You can see his improvement. You can see the amount of work that he put into it. And I think he will be, I'm not saying he's going to be Tom Brady or anything like that, but I think he can definitely be a building block for that franchise, something that they can build around.
All right, well, I have to ask you about Tua Tagovailoa. He's being rumored as a top 10 pick. And my biggest issue, like it is with every personnel director on the planet, is his medicals. What do you think Tua is going to be a good NFL quarterback, or do you think he's a really huge risk that you wouldn't take a chance on?
His medicals don't bother me. I don't like his throwing motion, and maybe it's because it's left-handed. Maybe that's where it gets off a little bit. But I don't, he's not that tall, and he throws the ball kind of from a sidearm platform. So I think he's going to have some problems getting the ball over the line of scrimmage. But his medicals don't bother me. A couple of ankle sprains. The hip is a big deal. It could be a potentially big deal. I don't know if it's going to be an arthritic type of problem or anything like that somewhere down the line. But his medicals don't bother me. Football's a balanced sport. You make sure you have an offensive line out there to protect him and teach the guy to not take those kind of hits. The hit that he took that he got hurt on is something that he could have avoided. Now, some of the ones where he hurt his ankle, those are a little bit tougher. He's trying to scramble out of the pocket. Somebody just falls on his ankle the wrong way. He ends up getting that high ankle sprain. But his medicals don't concern me at that position. It's not his shoulder. It's not his arm. As long as he can get back, he doesn't have any type of arthritic problem. It's healing properly. Got proper blood flow going in there. He's going to have movement, close to or near to or where he was before he got injured. I don't have a problem with the medicals.
Okay, well, his former teammate Jalen Hurts played for the Oklahoma Sooners, and Hurts has told everybody that I'm only playing quarterback. I'm not playing another position. Do you think that Hurts is only a backup, or do you think he could actually start someplace?
Well, I think ideally, I don't know if we talked about this before, but I think, what's happened in the league, and particularly with Lamar Jackson, I think that opens up another opportunity for a guy like Jalen Hurts. Heck, going to Baltimore would be a great possibility for him because Lamar is a little bit slender. He could get banged up, and you bring in a guy who has a similar skill set as Lamar Jackson, then you don't have to change your offense. So, and I think a lot of teams are going to be looking to have that type of change of pace quarterback where they can, where you have to account for them, where you make the defense, your opponent's defense have to study an entire, have to plan for another package. So I think he'll have an opportunity to play the position in the NFL. Whether or not he'll be a starter, my thing with him has always been he didn't grow as a passer. He at the beginning of the year I saw some improvement, but towards the middle and the end of the year I saw him fall back on his previous habits, which were to run the football. If he didn't see it, I don't believe he sees the field well enough. I don't believe that he anticipates defenses. I don't think he can read defenses well enough, and that's why. If his first read is taken away, he's just going to take off and run the football. So I believe he has a lot more growth. He needs to grow a little bit more in that position. He needs to learn that position a little bit more. I think, eventually, if he's given some time, if somebody is patient with him, he might have an opportunity to compete for a starting job.
Okay, let's go on to another prospect, Justin Herbert out of Oregon. He says he's never played under center. Let me give you a little bit of an overview of some Oregon quarterbacks that didn't pan out in the NFL. We go to Achilles Smith, and then of course Joey Harrington's been talked about. And now the question is does Justin Herbert, a guy who's never played under center before, become a liability, or is he one of those Oregon quarterbacks that can conceivably make it?
Well, when Achilles Smith came out, I didn't like Achilles Smith coming out, and he came out in that same draft, I believe, that Donovan McNabb.
Yeah, he did actually.
Yeah. And I didn't like that pick to Cincinnati because here again, this guy only played 1 year. I only heard of this guy for 1 year, and he had a remarkable year.
Right.
There was a running back that they had that I can't remember that he got drafted pretty high off that team as well.
Right.
But I was never high on Achilles Smith because I didn't have, and this is just me, and I'm not a personnel guy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not a talent evaluator, but just at that position, I'd like to see them do it for more than 1 year, at least 2 years. So I always felt that Donovan McNabb, because he had played for a while in Syracuse, I thought he would be the better quarterback, and he turned out to be the better quarterback. So, with Justin Herbert, I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that he came from Oregon and that you've had some problems. Joey Harrington, unfortunately, he may have had some issues, but he also went to a bad franchise as well. As we know, with the Lions.
Right.
I was kind of, Joey did some good things in college. I think we had Charlie Batch there at that time, if I'm not mistaken, in Detroit.
Right.
We brought in Joey Harrington, got rid of Charlie Batch. He got pretty much beat up there. He got thrown in the fire. No, we didn't have Charlie Batch. We had the other guy, McMahon, I think it was.
Right.
We had McMahon there.
Mike McMahon. Right. Okay.
Yeah, who I did kind of like, but he was kind of more like the guy down there in New Orleans. He was kind of a Swiss Army knife.
Right.
Taysom Hill. He was kind of like that guy. He was very athletic at the position, but couldn't throw the ball worth anything. But he was athletic. And Joey Harrington came in there, and they gave him the position, but it just it's Detroit. I mean, unfortunately, same thing's happened to Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is immensely talented, but he's just in Detroit. So anyway, getting back to Justin Herbert, he has played a couple years. I think they make too big of a deal out of playing under center. If you look at the NFL now, how often do they go under center? And getting under center is not that big of a deal. When you're trying to hand off the football, if you're trying to do some kind of play action or something like that,
right.
It's not that big of a deal. He's been playing football for a long time. Yeah, he may have never been under center through all the way coming up through Pee Wee football, and high school football, and of course in college. But it's not that big of a deal. He's a little bit taller guy, so he's gonna have to get acclimated, get his feet up underneath him. But a couple drills, just put the guy through some drills, and he'll be able to come from under center. But most of the NFL guys aren't under center anymore. The game has changed from when I played the game, when most quarterbacks were under center, and very seldom just in third down situations, obvious passing situations, long down situations where would you be in the shotgun formation. Now everybody operates out of the shotgun, so I don't think that's a big deal.
All right, let me make a couple points for you because you really nailed it on a couple places. Number one, and I was closer to the Joey Harrington situation. I won't classify Joey as a bust, and I'll give you two reasons why I won't. You had head coaching changes, and you can't keep changing the offensive coordinator, period. That to me is the biggest criminal act you can do. I expect the quarterback to go ahead and succeed. I know they tried with him, but I'm not putting Joey Harrington in the bust category. I think, and Matthew Stafford by no means is. He's actually done well there, broke every record on the planet, and they've gotten to the playoffs with him. So I don't think Stafford's time is totally lost either. He's been the best they've had since Bobby Lane. Now I'm going to further back up your point by saying Cardale Jones only played less than a year, and he's in the XFL. Dwayne Haskins played, about a year, and he obviously is buried on the Washington Redskins depth chart as a developmental guy. And then Mitch Trubisky hasn't lit it on fire by being in North Carolina. So I think you're right. You have a guy that's played 2 or 3 years. It's a much different situation. So that kind of backs up what you're saying. One other guy I want to bring up, we have another 5 minutes or so to go, is Jake Fromm. I believe he's in your backyard, isn't he, from Georgia, right?
Yes.
Right. So what are your thoughts of him as a prospect?
Well, I'll go back to one other thing about the 3 quarterbacks that you named.
Sure.
Cardell and the guy in Washington, and they lack mobility too.
Right.
So you see the NFL is going, NFL, the guys that are successful early are the ones that have some mobility. Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, even the guy down there in Arizona that's playing this year. I mean, the guys that have a chance are the guys that can create with their feet, because the problem that the NFL is having right now is that the guys in the offensive line are not that skilled. They're not that talented. So you don't have the best athletes that are protecting your most prized commodity. You have a lot of people, you have extremely good athletes that are chasing that athlete, trying to tackle him on the defensive line, whether you're talking about linebackers or defensive ends or even interior linemen. But the offensive line, unfortunately, what's coming up through the pipeline, they're not as talented as some guys have been in the past, or the talent pool isn't as rich there. So you got to have a mobile quarterback. Now, Jake Fromm, I was never really high on Jake Fromm, to be honest with you. I think Jake Fromm is a game manager. I think it's unfortunate too when you look at in the NFL and what some of these Georgia receivers, in particular Nicole Hardman, what he was able to do in Kansas City. Like, well, where was this guy at Georgia? I mean, what did they do with him? When you had the talent, I mean, they've had talent come out of there. In the running back position, in the wide receiver position, there's talent coming out of there. But Kirby is Nick Saban 5-10 years ago. He wants to play good defense, run the football, and the quarterback is only going to throw in obvious passing situations. But I don't think that, you look at the talent that's got out of there. The kid that's at Ohio State now, one of the guys that's going to be drafted this year, Jacob Eason out of Washington, who could be a late first-round pick, early second-round pick. Look at the talent that he allowed to go out of there to keep this kid. That tells me something about Kirby Smart, more so than it tells me about Jake Fromm, rather. But I'm not real, he's just an okay quarterback. I mean, I guess he's smart. Listen to Kirby. He's real high. I don't think the guy's a high IQ individual, knows everything, gets him in the right plays and all that. He's going to do all that stuff for you. But I don't believe that he's going to win any football games for you. I mean, he may not lose any games for you, but he's not going to win any games for you either.
All right. Are there any non-quarterbacks that stand out in your mind for what you've seen so far? We'll have a couple of minutes to go.
Well, I mean, obviously, Chase Young up there at Ohio State.
Right.
Obviously, he jumps off the page at you. You look at him, he looks like a Greek god. He was very, very productive at Ohio State in the years that he was there. He missed some games this year because of some inappropriate benefits or whatever the case may be. But
right.
He is going to be, you look at him, he's going to be something that you have to deal with. He's going to be a problem, and whoever gets him, you pretty much got a sure thing as long as he keeps his head straight. That's a sure thing. So he's extremely impressive as a talent coming up this year in the draft.
Okay, and finally, Mel, this is your opportunity in the show to promote whatever you represent. Go ahead, Mel.
Well, we did a couple weeks ago. We had our Motor City Showcase. We're not going to do the Georgia Showcase this year.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we're just not going to be able to do it this year, and I feel real bad about it. But it's just we'll get back at it next year and help these kids get the opportunity to go to college and continue to pursue their dream and also get themselves a free education. But we did the Motor City Showcase. That was the first one we did up there in Detroit. We had a little snowstorm, but we got 73 kids out there, 24 schools, and had a lot of kids that received their very first offer. Their very first offer. They hadn't received an offer all year, and they received not just one offer, but multiple offers. So, I mean, that's always a good feeling when a kid comes up to you or a parent comes up to you and tells you that your kid received an offer.
Very good. How does it feel when you go back to Detroit? Do you have the same fuzzy feeling that I do?
It was snowing, and I went to get my rental car, and I had to walk through slush. And I was wondering, why couldn't they just at least clear out this slush to get my car? What I did like is that there was no traffic on the freeway. And I was like, wow, I can actually go as fast as a little car will allow me to go if I wanted to. So that was something to get used to, but it's always good to go back home. I'll be honest with you, it's good to go back home. I don't like the weather that time of year. So fortunately, I wasn't up there that long. I don't think I was even there. I might have been there 48 hours max. I spent one night and got on out of there. Got there Friday morning and left out of there Saturday evening. So a nice short and quick trip. I didn't get an opportunity to see a lot of people, but I did get an opportunity to see a few folks and catch up with them.
Yeah, I don't get back to Detroit as frequent as I would like, and nowadays I go ahead and go up to state a little bit. A few people realize the state of Michigan is a beautiful state outside of Metro Detroit. But meanwhile, Mel, it's been a pleasure having you on the Sports Exchange. So on behalf of our guests tonight, Damon Knight, Les Wolf, and Mel Farr, our superstar, I don't know if we call you dealer or just our superstar. Take it whatever you want, but we want to thank everybody for being on the Sports Exchange, and we look forward to having you on the next time. Meanwhile, everybody, good night, and we will be back on the Sports Exchange on Thursday night. Good night, everybody.